Welcome to the Content Amplified podcast, brought to you by Masset. Our goal is to help you get more from your marketing content. Each episode is a 10 to 15 minute interview with industry experts that share amazing insights to help you squeeze as much juice from your content as you possibly can. Here's today's interview.
Welcome back to another episode of Content Amplified. Today I'm joined by Mike. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ben. Great to be with you.
Excited to have you, Mike. It's fun to talk to someone else who's in Utah, working for a company that I've admired for a very, very long time, since the beginning of my career. And Mike, you've had an awesome career. Let's get to know your career. And then I also love to ask, what do you love about content and marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. I am currently the director of marketing at Boostability. They're a company that does a lot of SEO work and has done that for 15 years. I kind of started in marketing a long time ago in graduating college, and I had a PR background and worked for an agency in California for a couple of years and just kind of got my feet wet. Went from a PR agency to going in-house to a B2B company in the corporate relocation industry. And I worked there for 5 years and just worked my way up, getting anything I could get my hands on in marketing. I just kind of fell in love with marketing, and I didn't know exactly what I didn't know, but I did that. And I also, at the same time, got my MBA while I was working at that time. And from there, I started diving into social media. Right at about that time, I was actually laid off because of the housing bubble that had burst at that time, and the relocation industry. All of our clients left, and it left me with kind of career choices, and I had to figure out what's the next best thing. And right at that time, social media was coming up, and I was very curious. And so I started doing some consulting for some professional football players with a buddy of mine who was an agent of theirs, and just kind of dove in there. I had a buddy that reached out to me in Utah for a direct selling company, and that's kind of what took me to Utah, and worked a couple of years. From there, I worked on the retail side. I went from a direct selling company to a company called Deseret Book. That eventually led me to Blend Tech, I think poster child for content marketing company. And if you've ever heard of Blend Tech, you've probably heard of Will It Blend. And that video viral phenomenon has been going, I think, for almost, probably close to 18 years or so. You wouldn't think about it gone on that long, but they've been around a long time. And that series has generated millions and millions of views as a YouTube channel. And so I was brought in as a content marketer, the first content marketer that actually oversaw Will It Blend and just oversaw everything in content marketing for Blend Tech. And that was awesome. That was awesome. Had a great team there. And then since then, I've just kind of been doing a lot of consulting. All along the way, it's been heavy dose of content marketing, social media, and just everything marketing. So that's kind of my illustrious career.
I love it. And it's a great career. So many good experiences. Beforehand, we were talking about how much I love the Will It Blend series and how that really is in the Hall of Fame of content marketing, taking popular things like new iPhones and Apple Watches and blending them to bits and showing the power of the product, but in a really entertaining and viral way. Such a cool campaign. That was so cool. I love that.
That was an experience, I think. Just to hit on your point, in the Hall of Fame, the content marketing world has their conference every, I think, September, October, I think, in Cleveland. And we went to Content Marketing World. They actually came out while I was there to Orem and our placing business because they were putting on kind of a Hall of Fame of content marketing at the time, and Blend Tech was going to be featured heavily, and they were making a movie about it at the time as well. And so that was great for them to come out. And then we went to Content Marketing World and saw the movie, and I don't know, kind of felt like rock stars there. But it was really cool to just kind of be a part of kind of a viral phenomenon. And I think even how do you leverage that, in a content marketing world as well? And I think even with my background, coming kind of a PR background, and just goes along with your podcast as well, Content Amplified. quickly learned that it doesn't have to necessarily just stay in YouTube and you're just going to milk all those views. But even with my PR background, we would reach out to, content producers like Mashable and The Verge and all these other online publications whenever we have a video. And they also know that our videos go viral, but they would also create their own content, right? And promote our content. It was just another really great way to get more views and just to get in front of different audiences and things like that. And you kind of don't necessarily realize it, but you always kind of figure out like, oh, how did I see Will It Blend? Was it just on YouTube, or maybe it was through all these other Facebook pages, different sources, and you don't really realize it as a consumer necessarily at the time, but there's some method to that madness.
Yeah, I love that. So this is super relevant to the topic for today, cutting through the noise, really how to create marketing content that commands attention. And Will It Blend is a perfect example of something that cut through the noise. But really, Mike, how do you cut through the noise? What can we do, especially in today's world where more content than ever is being produced on a daily, minute-by-minute basis than ever before? Never have we produced so much content as humankind. How do you stand out when there's so much noise?
Great question, Ben. I think this is going to be, the content is going to be amplified a lot more now when you have AI as another piece of that puzzle. And the pieces of content that can be created are insane. We're seeing it even on what I'm doing currently, or how we're even creating content and how AI figures in. So you figure that in a world that just gets noisier and noisier, I think have a few things and maybe some suggestions to kind of put yourself in a frame of mind that can help, I think, spur creativity. And authenticity, I think, is going to be really key. And I would say, first of all, I think you need to have kind of an end in mind for whatever you're trying to do. At the end of the day, whatever you're going to create, it needs to have a result. And so if you don't, for instance, it doesn't matter, you have this great piece of content that's doing great, that leads, someone to your website, but your website is really poor, or it doesn't convert well, or it's confusing. I don't need to have a thought about what's the ultimate result that I want to get and have that in mind. I know it's kind of boring to say that, but you kind of need to have, if you want the result you want, you got to have to think about how you're going to get that result and what are the metrics you're going to use to measure that success for any project. Beyond that, though, I think once you kind of have figured out, have a foundation, I think, of what you need there, you can do a couple of things. I think one is kind of auditing your surroundings around you. What do you have at your disposal? What are you really good at? What are your limitations? I think surrounding yourself with creative people and minds is a really good thing. And I think in my career, I have specifically worked with my designers and had a really special relationship with designers. And I am not a designer, but I do have a lot of ideas. And when you talk with designers specifically, they are the ones that can bring ideas to life. And so I focused on, and I didn't know that going on early in my career either. It was more of just like, oh, okay, we need to do something. And then all of a sudden you realize like, wow, I've had this idea and now it's turned into this beautiful thing or this beautiful campaign that came out. And just as an example of that is in my B2B days where I'm working for a corporate relocation provider that's kind of a boring industry and we had a boring brand. And so how do you breathe life into that? We had a specific office that was being built in Chicago. And so we needed to make a splash in that area. We just decided we're only going to target, maybe, 80 companies we were going to target within the Chicago area. And we did a direct mail campaign. And it started off with me and my designer just talking about ideas and what we could do. And I think eventually the idea came about, well, they have this board game, Monopoly, that has specific cities and they build these boards around them. And so I'm like, so we riffed on creating our own Monopoly direct mail piece. We created a box and we created And you could think about that. And I say, when you talk about content amplified, it's like there's an ideation process, right? But I think as part of getting creativity, it's not just having an idea, but thinking about how can I blow up that idea? Like realize that what would this look like if it was like just blown up? Like what's the maximum you could get out of this campaign versus just creating a campaign? And so we didn't only just create a Monopoly box, but we printed the Monopoly money that were inside of it. We created chance cards that kind of were like, take a chance with us. And then we had the greenhouses. Since we were a relocation company, we did a t-shirt wrapped in the greenhouses. You can shrink wrap it into the shape of the greenhouse pieces that are in Monopoly. We did a giant Monopoly card that was inside of the box. That was the property card, but it had their company name on it. And then it had just bullet points of your value proposition and on the card. And inside the box, it was actually a board that we created that was stuck to the inside of the box that technically it looks like you could actually play on it. So we took that idea, right? But then we just blew it up. And yes, there are costs associated with that. But again, you have to kind of have the end in mind, and our if we could get 10 meetings out of, 80, direct mail pieces, that's pretty good, return and return rate. And so ultimately, if you even get one client, that's millions of dollars of revenue for us. So it made it worth it. And as a follow-up to that, if anybody scheduled a meeting, we bought these oversized Monopoly pieces that are like giant board game, the board pieces that you use. And we bought them as a follow-up to like when the salesperson went to meet with them, they would give them that as a follow-up too. So it's just keeping that presence of mind. And I will say to this day, I still have talked with my colleagues. I did that over 10 years ago, and they still get responses from people that received that mailer to this day. And so as you think about swag and things like that, we all buy as marketers, and it's like, how could you really make, that's people as marketers, we buy swag and we want to be remembered for something, right? And you want to have purpose behind all those things. And so I don't know. I think part of the ideation process is starting with, how can I have an idea? How can I blow that up into something even bigger? And you talk about content amplified. I feel like the bigger the impact, and this is user experience part of that as well, right? Of how they experience your marketing. Those are just, it's just one example, and one even just ideation process of kind of I went through to get to the ultimate, result that we wanted. And yes, we did get a client. We got a couple of clients out of that mail piece in the Chicago area. And so the other part to that, though, I think is also knowing how to promote yourself internally. When you actually prove yourself in that environment, that also it reflects back on you. And for us as a boring brand, it changed our brand. It literally did, just in the way we typically had boring advertising, or we had boring messaging, and things like that. Those experiences can change, and it can change your mindset as a marketer as well, of saying like, well, if we did that, even just a specific project, how can we take that mindset and run it throughout all of our marketing? And so it was a game changer for us as a company at that point.
I love it. So many things right there to unpack, so many things to think about. A couple of things I want to double click on, and then one final question, Mike. Number one is, I loved how you talked about at the very beginning, and you called it a boring step. You have to come up with what success looks like first. Success is not a universal metric. It is not, success is the same thing for every business, every person, every campaign. That's why it is so important to say, at the end of doing this campaign or this initiative, what results would we need to see to say, yes, that was successful? What are we trying to accomplish? And if you do that, you can always have a more productive conversation. If you just said, hey, this is so cool, we're going to launch this Monopoly campaign and throw it out there, we have no idea what success looks like. But even in your description of it, you said, well, if even we get one client and you got multiple, even if we get one client, that's successful. And now everyone has the same bar for success, that same standard. And it's really simple for the business to align around that and say, yes, that was amazing. It accomplished this goal. Everyone agreed to it. Good job. So I think that that's really important. And I think that everyone needs to think about that. Now, that's like your typical ABM campaign. I think you can be creative, even if you're in markets. I've been in them, you've been in them, where you can't spend that much money per client. One interesting technique is that you can have and create that experience for a specific client that you would like to land, but make it very public. And you share on social media that you're sending that to someone. I know that we interviewed someone from HBO, and she had talked about, sending specific custom swag to a celebrity. And all of a sudden, a bunch of people saw that, interacted with it. So that was an ABM technique, but with a broad audience. So there are always creative ways. Don't ever think because our cost per acquisition per client has to be so low that you can't be creative. There are ways to amplify that experience. So I think there's a lot of cool things. So Mike, final question, because we're running out of time. AI. How does AI impact, improve, change the game when it comes to cutting through the noise? How do we start thinking about it and take advantage of it in this process of trying to stand out?
Part of it, I think, is having some general curiosity as a marketer. I think there's a couple of mindsets. I think traditional content marketers may feel like AI is going to take away their job. Even here, I think we've had experiences here where, traditional content marketer didn't want to use AI possibly in creating some of their content. And I think for us as marketers, I think we need to learn how to embrace the new tools and we need to understand them. And so what does that mean? It's especially with AI, there's so many things in the marketing realm that we need to understand and have a curiosity about them. I'm a traditional guy as well. I believe in authenticity. I believe in like, you're not going to take, my creativity out of my brain. We need to embrace it. And if we understand the tools that we have, it can unlock the creative aspects of our brain in different ways. And so that's how I'm looking at it and embracing it. I'm not going to say I'm an AI connoisseur or anything, but it's definitely in our industry, especially in the SEO realm. How a company going to, gamify SEO or just churn out endless pieces of content and things like that. And I don't think ultimately that's going to serve people or clients well. However, AI is here to stay, and it's up to us as marketers to figure out how to leverage it and use it for our benefit. And I think, we're looking at it from content creation, video, even in the optimization of being more efficient, even as a marketing group, how can we be more efficient in our processes? And I think it's also affecting other aspects of the business, hiring even of, there's AI. How do you source? Our HR people are using AI to source people to hire, and we're using that. And that's interesting. I mean, even looking in different locations to hire, people even from Philippines to help out with our work. And it's interesting to even see people that we're hiring that have AI experience, even in locations like that. And so it's just interesting. I would say as a marketer, it's up to us to understand the tools around us and how AI is going to affect even the channels that we live in. And so, Facebook's embracing it, obviously Google, you're seeing it in the snippets, in the overviews that you're seeing in some of your search results that you're seeing. So, it's here to stay. We as a business have to evolve. We as marketers have to evolve. And I think the more you're curious about it, the more you can try to get ahead of some of the storms that might be coming our way. And so I personally have loved it and have found myself embracing it as much as I can. And also just with my coworkers, and I'm telling them even to, even embrace it, start looking at ways that you can become more efficient. And I think that's kind of the first step.
I love it. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I agree 100%. It's here to stay. embrace it, use it to unlock your abilities, not replace your abilities. And I think you'll be in a good spot. So Mike, thank you for the insights and the time today. This has been amazing. Lots to think about. If anyone wants to connect with you online and further the conversation, how and where can they find you?
Absolutely. I think the best way is on LinkedIn. You can hit me up there. I'm also on all the socials as well. So would love to connect. Definitely hit me up. Glad to answer any questions.
Love it. Again, Mike, thanks for your time today.
All right. Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Content Amplified podcast. Please subscribe and leave us a review. And for additional ways to get more out of your content, visit our website at getmasset.com. That's getmasset.com. And tune in next time to the Content Amplified podcast.